Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Daniela. I am a second year medical student and Section 2 GAMSAT tutor, and today we're going to be talking about difficult GAMSAT prompts. A lot of my students, and even myself when I was a student, used to walk into the GAMSAT and hope for a good prompt because we were worried if we got a curveball, we'd just be like, we can't write about this, it's too difficult, too random. Well, I'm here to tell you that actually ACER, in my experience, will never truly give you a random prompt because they're always going to be assessing the same thing. So things about your understanding of emotions, your understanding of life, your own thoughts, and how the world works. So things that might seem random like food, music, perhaps pets, insects, or even space are not actually that random. So get your notes out and let's get into one. All right, so hopefully we got that the theme was space. And let's look at the sub-themes. Sub-themes are always important to assess in any prompt. So there were many sub-themes here. One was power, finiteness, curiosity, and then humility with the last quote. Now, these quotes seem a little bit random, but they're actually not. And we're going to tear apart exactly why. So let's start with the first one. So, Space Exploration is the Ultimate Expression of Human Curiosity by Carl Sagan. The quote actually focuses mostly on human curiosity. That's where the heart of this message goes. So we really can expand on that. And we can talk about that human curiosity is not only an innate part of us and what makes us, Homo sapien. It is also what drives progress. It's what helps medicine, technology, culture. So we might move on to the second one. We should solve problems on Earth before reaching for the stars. This one's a little bit more negative, not in as much support of human exploration of space. So, problems on Earth, well, hints to global warming, economic issues, poverty, world hunger, human rights violations, all these very prevalent core issues that we can individually break apart. So if we wanted to talk about like the poverty income gap in different countries between first world countries and third world countries, and then we can compare that with the financial investment that people make to go to space. That could be a whole topic on its own. We can talk about how we're not taking care of our own planet enough, that global warming is an unprecedented rates, that we've got pollution. Even mentioned the garbage patch if I wanted to defend that statement. So we need to take care of Earth before we move forward to look into the stars. So that's quote 2. All right, let's do quote 3. Space is not a destination, it's a frontier. Okay. So the idea of going to space for many might just seem like it's an exciting exploration, right? But this quote is saying it's a frontier. So perhaps it's something to achieve on a more economic level. So let's brainstorm. So if we think of Elon Musk, one of the most, if not the most powerful man in the world, he has SpaceX. Now, does he need to have SpaceX? No, but he does it because he can. And that also reinforces his power in the world. It's something to achieve rather than something he needs to do. We can even think about celebrities going to space, like Katy Perry, for instance. That was quite controversial, but Katy Perry, it was not just for fun, it also reinforced her sense of achievement, her relevance in the world. So something to talk about. But these are still, to me, quite shallow waters. I would like to tear it apart a little bit more on the economic level. Let's go into history. So I would think about things like the Cold War between America and Russia, for instance, post-World War II, and what happened there. Put quite simply, this Cold War was a show of power, of who is going to be the world's superpower. And they used not Earth, but space as a way to demonstrate which was the stronger, more intelligent, more relevant superpower than the other person. There was Sputnik that went up to space, which was the first satellite. That was revolutionary. But then came John F. Kennedy, who said that we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. This was at a time where they were still post-war, so economic resources were finite. So why go to space? Because it is demonstration of power, technological advancement, intellect. And not only that, it is a motivating factor for the people to be proud of something that they've achieved, that we have as a country gone and achieved the impossible. So therefore, space is not a destination, it is a frontier. See, very little about space here, much more about human dynamics. Let's move on. The earth is the cradle of humanity, but one cannot live in the cradle forever. All right, I won't reinforce too much because sorry, not reinforce, repeat too much because I already spoke a lot about the problems here on Earth. So this one perhaps can be extrapolated to say that we have ruined Earth in a sense, so we have to move on. But then we can maybe take the other perspective and that perhaps the progress of human development as a species is actually extending outwards of our atmosphere in a sense. So we could talk about how the next Homo sapien, Homo Deus, for example, will be a greater superpower or a greater elevation of our societies and species if we can actually move our generations elsewhere. That's a bit of a stretch. I'm kind of using my imagination here, but it is still something that we could perhaps talk about. So the vastness of space reminds us how small and fragile we are. This one and quote one kind of in a weird way connect. So again, about human sense of definition, okay? More than we are curious about space, we are curious about who we are. And so we look outside to find that. So the vastness of space, how large it is, what happens, it tells us how fragile we are. What else gives us definition and meaning? Religion. So this connection might seem obscure, but bear with me. So the vastness of space reminds of how small and fragile we really are, searching for meaning. Okay, that we must remain humble. Then humble, not humble. We must remain humble. We could then, if we wanted to link in concepts of religion, whatever religious or non-religious beliefs you may have, you may. I guess the link I'm trying to make here is that the vastness of space, when we look outside space, we're searching for meaning. And meaning can come from the world, understanding outward the world, but also from religion. So we can kind of weirdly tie that all into a paragraph. The next thing that I would like to talk about here is the concept of humility. So how fragile, the word fragile means delicate, easy to break. Okay. So if we are fragile, then we must protect what we have. We have to appreciate who we are as humans and the gift of life that we have been given. So we can talk about the greater depth of understanding of the universe only makes our significant meaning even greater because the fact that we are alive and we are in this earth is remarkable all in itself. Now, I've spoken about ideas, but we mustn't forget about philosophy. That come to me, for example, existentialism, that we must find meaning, we give ourselves meaning, and that could be through space exploration and human curiosity. Perhaps, like Aristotle speaks of us as rational animals that have a desire to know, and this desire to know extends to the greatest boundary of our human knowledge. The other one that I resonate with is Stoicism. So Stoicism has a good point about insignificance and how we are quite fragile and to accept that we could even lose ourselves. So to be okay with oneself, fragility. So those are just three examples that we spoke about for philosophy, but you can put in much, much more. Okay, I hope after this we have discovered that actually this might be about space, but really it is central to the concepts of what makes us human and how we as humans operate, think, be alive. So space is just the vessel in this prompt used to assess how much we understand about or how much we have thought about human behavior and being.